What is going on, Trash Talkers? Welcome to our Halloween edition of Trash Talk Sports. Today's video, we're going to give you our starts and sits for Fantasy Week 8. All that and much more coming your way right now. Hey Trash Talkers, over 85% of you are still not subscribed to the channel. Please be sure to hit that red subscribe button and turn on notifications, as it will help us create more daily content for you. Thank you and enjoy today's video. Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. This is our starts and sits for week 8, and as always, we are joined by Frankie Santiago from the Fantasy 4-Pack. You can check out their channel on YouTube in the description down below. You can reach out to them on Twitter with all of your fantasy questions, starts, sits, everything in between. And Frankie, if you wanted to just let the people know where they can find you specifically on Twitter.
Specifically on Twitter, I am at Senpai Koala. That is exactly how it is, sounds like it's spelled.
That's awesome. Yeah, it'll definitely be in the description below as well, so you can find him there. And let's get into it. Nick, why don't you start us off with our starts and sits at the quarterback position for week 8?
Yeah, starting off with my start quarterback of the week, Ryan Tannehill, making his way to Indianapolis, taking on his division rival. This is going to be a different game for the Tennessee Titans. This isn't going to be a runaway game. The Indianapolis Colts know them much better than most teams, and this is going to present a little bit of an issue in which Ryan Tannehill's going to have to throw the ball. Derrick Henry is going to be taken out of this one. DeForest Buckner seems to be the kryptonite for Derrick Henry, and I believe that it's going to be up to Tannehill to lead the charge. I expect big plays from him. A.J. Brown and Julio are both expected to play, so I think that there are plenty of opportunities for Ryan Tannehill to have a big game this week. And for my sit quarterback, I'm going with Baker Mayfield against Pittsburgh, another divisional matchup. This is usually one of those weeks where, Baker Mayfield, the Cleveland Browns usually split the series, and it's always tougher than they expected to against the Steelers. Baker Mayfield dealing with all of his injuries. I just don't like the matchup. The Steelers are going to have a game plan going against Baker Mayfield. He may have Jarvis and Odell to work with, but I still don't think that the Browns are going to be relying on Baker to throw the ball a ton. Nick Chubb will be back, and I expect him to have a big running game, so I would stay away from Baker Mayfield this week.
I don't think Derrick Henry's going to be eliminated necessarily.
Eliminated, just taken out.
Yeah, that'll be a thing for sure. But no, Ryan Tannehill, great start, and obviously Baker with his shoulder injury, definitely something to watch. They posted a video of him airing it out, and it was a dart throw 15 yards down the field, and that was pretty much it. It didn't go further than that, and I don't really know what to make of that, so definitely a good sit there.
I am fading all Browns not named Nick Chubb.
Yeah, absolutely. Franks, with that said, why don't you give us your quarterbacks for the starts and sits?
So last week, going into the week after the thrashing that the Baltimore Ravens gave the Chargers the week before, we kind of expected the same thing for the Cincinnati Bengals. My start of the week is Joe Burrow, because after what I saw last week, that Cincinnati offense, they made a statement, and we kind of expected Jamar Chase to fall off, but we haven't really seen that.
No.
At all. Through the first 7 games, he's looked phenomenal. There's plenty of more weapons in that offense. Joe Mixon's looked great. So I think that Joe Burrow is going to have another, maybe high 30s, low 40s passing game. Look, they're playing the Jets. So whether, game script, makes his numbers fall down a little bit, probably not. They're probably going to go up early due to the passing volume. And I think that he has all the weapons to do it. My sit of the week, though, even though he looked good last week coming back, Tua. There's only really one wide receiver I trust in this offense, and that's Jalen Waddle. And going against that Buffalo defense, who has looked great, they have been shellacking every team that they've played. I don't really trust Tua going into this. He's I'm looking at maybe high teens for points. There's probably going to be turnovers. There's probably not going to be a lot of touchdowns. And, he's got 2 weeks coming back from injury, but he's still a little bit banged up. He's still making throws that don't look super great out there. And maybe he saves your day with a rush-in touchdown, but I'm not really trusting Tua this week.
Joe Burrow is one of those guys where I saw how good he was last year, and then obviously he got injured, but then you added Jamar Chase, and this offense just became so much more dynamic, and I thought last week was a really good test against a Baltimore Ravens defense that we know to be so stout, especially against the pass in that secondary, and he just torched them. I mean, Jamar Chase going over 200 yards receiving, that doesn't just come because you have some slouch at quarterback. Joe Burrow's the real deal here, so definitely like the start there. And Tua, listen, I've never been a guy who has liked Tua outside of college. I didn't think he was a pro-ready quarterback. I think he needs a lot of development to be able to be successful in this league. I think he has already reached his ceiling. You know what you're going to get with him. And going against the Buffalo Bills defense, I don't think that's going to be a whole hell of a lot. So I like fading Tua here. I don't think he's a good start this week, and I would definitely look for other options out there. All right, that'll be it for the quarterbacks. Why don't we move over to the running backs? Nick, why don't you get us started?
For my start running back of the week, I'm going with Damien Harris taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. We saw this matchup last year, and the Patriots absolutely ran all over the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers' front seven really hasn't changed. In fact, it's gotten a little bit weaker with the loss of Melvin Ingram. The run defense for the Chargers has not been good this year, and the Patriots are going to do everything they can to keep the ball out of Justin Herbert's hands, keep that offense off the field. And how they do that, they're just going to run the ball the entire game. Damien Harris is looking phenomenal this year, and they're going to continue to use him as their workhorse. He's going to have a massive game. He's going to be the focal point of this offense. I really like him in this matchup. And for my sit running back of the week, I'm going with Antonio Gibson, who's going to Denver, taking on the Broncos. Antonio Gibson seems to be obsolete out of this offense completely, and J.D. McKissic is the guy they're working with. I mean, the running back position as a whole is just being faded on by the Washington football team. They're not using this position as a traditional running back, and Gibson really has not looked the part with his injuries, with everything he's dealing with. I just don't like Antonio Gibson in this matchup. I believe that Terry McLaurin is going to be the focal point for them in this one, and I really think that it's going to be a low-scoring game overall. There's not going to be a lot of opportunities for Gibson to get into the end zone, make some big plays, and I think that this is the week where we have to say it's time to sit Antonio Gibson.
Listen, Damien Harris might be going against the Chargers. The Chargers are actually the 32nd ranked rush defense in the NFL. Obviously can't get worse than that. So Damien Harris, who has the second most amount of 100-yard rushing games in the NFL, only to Derrick Henry, is going to really have a field day. So I love the start there. And you mentioned the injuries to Antonio Gibson, that those shin splits are nothing to joke about. He is running on literal injuries. Every single pounding moment of his day is just pain, and you're seeing it in his play. The fantasy points aren't there, the production in real football isn't there, and the Washington football team is better off putting him on IR than they are utilizing him in the manner that they are right now. So I like sitting Gibson. I think it's time. I know he was drafted pretty high, but this is the time to sit him.
Yeah, I've heard murmurs that Gibson's injury is, it could be a stress fracture, and it's only a matter of time before his leg explodes. So yeah, I don't want to be the one who has him in my starting lineup when he decides to make a cut and his leg goes one way and he goes another way. As far as my start of the week, though, a guy that I was a little bit cool on going into the season, because I didn't know what I was really going to get with him, Deandre Swift. He has looked pretty consistent for the most part of the year. I mean, Jamal Williams going in there, we thought, oh, maybe he's going to take away some of the work. Swift's been maintaining, his receiving volume and his rushing volume all season. And after what I saw the Raiders do to Philly last week, I am locking Swift in there for this week, because, I could probably run for 200 yards on Philly. But no, I'm just keeping it real simple. He's been consistent, so why not just ride the consistency until it, shows otherwise. I said of the week, Cordero Patterson. This Atlanta offense looks awful, and they're looking better. They're working Kyle Pitts a little bit more, but he's not one of those running backs where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna trust him to get me fantasy points. Granted, last week Carolina didn't look great against the Giants, but they're going through it as well. But overall, I think that they're still a good defense. Their pass defense is really good, and their running defense depends on the matchup, but I don't think they're going to struggle against the Falcons. I mean, it was still a low-scoring game last week. I think that they're going to keep that same kind of bread and butter down there with, I think the score in this one's going to be low. It's going to hit the under. And I don't think that a lot of the work is going to come from Cordero Patterson. I think it's going to come from Kyle Pitts, like I just said. They're working him in more. Calvin Ridley's obviously going to get some work. But, I don't like Cordero Patterson as a running back in general.
I know that hurts Nick a lot because he's a big Cordero Patterson truther, but Deandre Swift is actually one of the best starts that you can have right now just because of his workload. You talked about consistency, but his ability to get yardage, it doesn't matter the defense across from him. This offensive line is opening holes. He's scoring touchdowns. He's worked well in the receiving game. Jared Goff loves throwing to this guy, so definitely a huge opportunity there. He could be a top 5 running back when it's all said and done this season. And then moving on, Cordero Patterson, like I said, it's just one of those things where I know, Nick, you're big on Patterson, but at the end of the day, I tend to agree with you. I think Carolina has struggled a bit, but most of that struggle has come offensively. And even when they're struggling offensively, the defense has shown up. And they're going to be able to key in on players like Calvin Ridley and Cordero Patterson, leaving Pitts and Russell Gage open. I think those guys are going to flourish in this game where you're seeing possibly Stephon Gilmore coming back and really helping this defense out a lot. So I like fading Patterson this week. He's been a solid ride so far ever since he got anointed in the Tampa Bay game. But ever since then, you've been riding him. Now it's time to start looking at other options for sure. All right, Nick, why don't you get us started at our wide receiver position?
Yeah, so my start of the week, Frankie, you alluded to him earlier, Jalen Waddle against the Buffalo Bills. I really think Jalen Waddle has been getting more and more involved into this offense. And now that Tua is back, he's starting to use that new weapon a little bit more. Devonta Parker is going to be taken away from this game. Tre'Davious White's going to lock him up. That's going to really leave Jalen Waddle to work the underneath routes, just get the ball into his hands, and Jalen Waddle is going to do the rest. This guy is freakishly athletic, can do incredible things, and Tua knows that. He's understanding how Jalen Waddle is best utilized, and I think this is a great matchup for him. Last time these two teams met, the Dolphins got absolutely embarrassed, and the Dolphins are not going to let that repeat itself. They are going to do what it takes to get points, and that just means getting the ball into your stars' hands. Jalen Waddle is going to do just that. I think that he is going to be their best option at winning this game, and I think that he's going to be able to put up a ton of fantasy points for you this week. For my sit wide receiver, Allen Robinson versus the San Francisco 49ers. Look, Allen Robinson has just been absolutely abysmal this year. The Chicago Bears have been a mess outside of their running backs and the wide receivers in general. Allen Robinson is just not the play. He's got to be a sit. He's got to be somebody on your bench until further notice, because you don't know what you're getting back from Justin Fields, from the quarterback position. It's just very inconsistent. Allen Robinson has not been the guy to even get the most targets on the team. So it's just a position in general for the Bears that I am staying away from. Allen Robinson, he may have the name value, but you got to look past that and realize that there are better fantasy wide receivers out there that you can start.
Jalen Waddle, like you mentioned, is not going to be matched up on Tre'Davious White, which means he's going to have to work against the number 2 and 3 cornerback for the Buffalo Bills, which is where they've been most effective. Teams have been most effective against them. So I think that's a huge opportunity for Waddle in this one. Tua is starting to trust him a lot more. And when we saw that 40-plus point blowout that they suffered, it was because Tua was knocked out of that game and then knocked out for consecutive weeks following that. So at the end of the day, Tua's back in this game. He's going to be playing, and the Buffalo Bills are going to have to game plan for Devonta Parker and Mike Gesicki. Jalen Waddle is going to be the guy that gets open. I like the start there. Allen Robinson, you mentioned it. He is definitely name value, and I am not only sitting him, but I may be inclined to drop him. And I know, Frankie, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but Allen Robinson is just one of those guys you can't trust, and mainly because you can't trust the Chicago Bears. Justin Fields, he hasn't looked great, but that offensive line
That's
hasn't.
being nice when you say he hasn't looked great.
Listen, he hasn't even looked like an NFL quarterback. Let's say what it is, right? He has not looked good at all. I mean, outside of his ability to maybe throw a long ball, it hasn't looked good. The most indicative thing I can say is that I saw Justin Fields scramble out of the pocket, roll right. He's falling down. He throws a ball just like a Patrick Mahomes would do. And then all of a sudden, Allen Robinson's wide open, and he falls down before the ball even gets there, and it gets picked off. I mean, that was the most indicative play I've seen from the Chicago Bears all season. And I said, that's enough. You cannot trust the quarterback. You can't trust Allen Robinson. And at the end of the day, it has to be one of those things where you take a look and say, he's not on my team anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting to it, but I like the Waddle start because, like I said, if there's a wide receiver to, be rostering his offense, it's him. He's looked really great. Allen Robinson, again, we talked about this a little before the show. I'm trying to projectile him off my team for something. I will take 30 cents on the dollar at this point. But getting into my starts of the week, coming off the bye, Deante Johnson, Mr. 7 bajillion targets himself. He is the wide receiver to, be rostering in Pittsburgh. And, the Pittsburgh passing attack hasn't looked great. So, why not get the guy who's getting double-digit targets in, 80% of his games? He's hauling him in too. He's getting touchdowns. He's getting yardage. It's, he's going against the Cleveland secondary, which is, running on, fumes right now because everyone's injured. Their offense is, depending how Baker plays, it might not be on the field very long, so he's going to get a lot of opportunities. And my sit of the week, I wish I could have warned people to sit, to, get Tyler Lockett off their teams after his 2 big games. It's almost like I've said this before, but hey, people who didn't listen to me, how are you doing? Oh, he got you 8 points combined the last 2 weeks? I wonder why. Is it because Gino Smith is the quarterback? Well, congratulations. You might have to sit Tyler Lockett because you can't trade him anymore. And yeah, no, I mean, this is a trap matchup right here because on paper you're thinking, oh, Jacksonville, they're gonna, they're gonna be an easy matchup. No, Geno Smith's throwing the ball to DK Metcalf. That's pretty much it. And they're an offense that wants to run first. They're gonna have one wide receiver that eats. It's gonna be Metcalf, and whatever running back is there is gonna feast. Tyler Lockett, your time is up. You are on my bench. Not mine, though, because I did not take any shares.
I mean, here's the perfect plug, right? I follow you guys, obviously, and I'm on your show every week, and we talked about Tyler Lockett in detail. I traded him after week 2. I did.
Thank God.
And I not only traded him, I traded him and Antonio Gibson for Tyreek Hill. And obviously Hill hasn't been that guy, but he's still in an explosive offense that can go off at any time. Lockett and Gibson, we're telling you both to sit both of those guys right now. So I'm thankful that I listened to you guys and that I was able to take that advice and actually move him because that worked out for me personally very well.
Oh, hold on. Since week 2, can we just go through Tyreek Hill's stat line real quick?
I mean,
8 points,
pain.
47 points, 14 points, 22 points, 12 points. I'm not going to pull up Lockett's because it's not even close.
I don't think it even matches up to the 44-point game.
It does not.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, I feel like I balled out in that trade, but nonetheless, this is why you listen to us. That's why you listen to you guys on your channel, because this is definitely something that people should be focusing on. But nonetheless, I like the Deante Johnson play. Nick is another Deante Johnson truther. He loves that guy. Has for a couple of years now, and I like Johnson as well. You talked about double-digit targets. He might get triple-digit targets in a game if he had the opportunity. So Big Ben loves this guy, and you should definitely cash in on that as much as you can. Tyler Lockett, he's another guy where I'm just baffled as to how he could go from 31-point games to 2-point games. It's just incredible to me. But that's the name of the game with Lockett. So good luck with him. All right, Nick, why don't you get us started with our final position, the tight ends?
Yeah, so for my start tight end of the week, going back to the Patriots, Hunter Henry making his revenge game against the Chargers. Now, not really, because Hunter Henry actually referred to the Chargers as his team earlier this week, not realizing he is, in fact, a New England Patriot. So Hunter Henry making his way back to Los Angeles. It's going to be a great matchup for him. The linebackers are abysmal right now for the Los Angeles Chargers. The safety safeties. Derwin James might be matched up on him, but that's a matchup that Hunter Henry had every single time in practice, so he knows how to play against him. And Hunter Henry, with Gino Smith out, is going to absolutely be explosive. We all know that Mac Jones is falling in love with the tight end position, especially in the red zone. We see Hunter Henry with 4 straight games with a touchdown. That's going to be 5. I think that could even be a multi-touchdown game for Hunter Henry. I really think this is a big matchup for him this week. For my sit tight end of the week, I'm going with Noah Fant against the Washington football team. The big reason why, Jerry Jeudy's making his return. Noah Fant is going to be the guy that falls out of favor for Teddy Bridgewater. Jerry Jeudy was a massive target for Teddy Bridgewater before his injury, and that's going to start right back up where it left off. Noah Fant is not going to get the same targets. He's not going to have the same opportunities, and I think that it's really going to come down for him in the red zone. I don't think Noah Fant is going to see a touchdown this week. I don't think he's going to even see a red zone target. I'm staying far away from Noah Fant against the Washington football team.
Listen, Hunter double agent Henry over here talking about the Chargers being his team right now. No, listen, I like Hunter Henry as a start. Mac Jones absolutely loves this guy, especially in the middle of the field. He's almost the Rob Gronkowski type that we expected him to be. Obviously not the same level of talent that Gronk was in his prime, but he's being utilized the same way. Josh McDaniels still calling those Gronk plays for Hunter Henry, and we're seeing Gino Smith really get involved, but now he's out at least for a week, and this is a time that Hunter Henry's going to be able to thrive in the middle of that field, so I like the start there. Noah Fant with Jerry Jeudy coming back. Listen, Noah Fant's done pretty well. He's been serviceable up until this point, but Jerry Jeudy coming back now, having to split opportunities with Cortland Sutton and everybody else on this offense, Javonte Williams and Melvin Ingram still getting carries and being able to work their offense the way they do. I just think that the Denver offense is split so thin that it's very hard to trust somebody that was barely getting enough targets to start at earlier. Now with another mouth to feed, he's not going to get that. So I like sitting Noah Fant, and I'm sure there's other opportunities at tight end on your waiver wire that you'll be able to go through. So, Frankie, why don't you tell us who you have for your start and sit at tight end?
Well, I mean, we're going back to the attack Philly will, and we're picking up TJ Hawkinson here. You know, he has been dealing with injuries, but, you know, he's gotten the green light for the past 3 weeks. He's been able to get double-digit targets, nice yardage. Unfortunately, no touchdowns. But I mean, I think that just based on the fact that he is effectively one of the only receivers in town, I don't know who's the wide receiver 1 in Detroit. Is it Amon-Ra St. Brown? Maybe. But the offense flows through 2 people. One of them was already my running back start of the week. This is the other one. So going against this Philly team who has looked not great, to be nice. Yeah, no, this is just I mean, Hawkinson's a lock for me pretty much every week if you're looking for just a good tight end start. That's it. I'm keeping it simple here.
Yeah.
Going to my stud of the week, you know, to start the season, Gronk looked great. He's coming off an injury. He's good. He's been returning to practice. Even if he plays this week, that New Orleans defense has looked very good. And despite how much Brady likes him, I am not trusting him to put up, you know, the points he put up in the Dallas or Atlanta game, because this New Orleans defense is much more stout than those 2 defenses. And then, I mean, if you look at the Rams, who are, you know, they're probably one of the best defenses in the NFL, put up 9 points in PPR. So yeah, coming off an injury, I would much rather have him sit on my bench and see what he does this week against a good defense rather than, you know, throw him out there and just hope he gets a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, Hawkinson, obviously, starting him, he's one of the best tight ends there is. So if you have an opportunity to have Hawkinson on your team, I would absolutely start him at every chance you get. He may have given you question marks earlier in the season, but it seems like he's been settled down, and this offense has too. And like you said, this offense is going through Jared Goff, who likes his running back and his tight end, and we've forgotten who plays wide receiver, because outside of Khalif Raymond, I don't know who's getting targeted. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Quintez Cephas, doesn't matter who's there. If they're injured, it doesn't matter. They're just not getting targeted. So at the end of the day, I like the Hawkinson pick. And Gronk is an interesting one, because people who had Gronkowski were playing him with the hopes that, listen, Brady trusts this guy. He loves his tight end. He's going to feed him as much as he can. But when you take a look at the Demario Davis and the Malcolm Jenkins of the world that are on this New Orleans Saints defense, they're going to be the ones clogging up the middle. They're going to be the ones that are going to be running interference on Gronkowski, and who's already hobbled. I would definitely try to stay away from him this week because with Rob Gronkowski, when he gets hobbled, he really just can't do much. He looks like a robot that can't bend over. And at the end of the day, he's not going to be able to make those Gronkowski plays that we have come to know and love. So sitting him for at least a week, even if he does have a good game, you can rest assured that he'll be able to have that moving forward. Against the Saints defense, I'm not taking that risk. I'd rather start somebody else that's on the waiver wire that I can pick up right now, especially because him coming off the injury, we don't know what he's going to look like. All right, well, I want to hear from you guys. Let us know in the comments down below. Let us know if you have any questions about starts and sits for fantasy. Hit up Frankie, hit up the Fantasy 4-Pack. Let them know on Twitter. That's where they check everything. Also, let them know in their comments on their video as well. And that'll be all for now. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.